Have you ever been too lazy to just throw your trash away in a trash can because it's too far, just not accessible to you at that moment? Or have you ever walked past by a certain part of your neighborhood and noticed that there's just a lot of trash just laying around at a certain part of it? And lastly, have you ever wondered where all your trash goes once you dispose of it in a trash can? Hello, my name is Ronaldo Cruz, and I'll be talking about how picking up your trash and placing it where it's supposed to go can not only make your community look much nicer, but also benefit your environment in a lot of ways than you can possibly imagine. I will start off by going over potential issues that are caused on a global scale, and then I'll be talking about how we can all come together and resolve these issues as well. I will also be talking about the potential issues of throwing your trash away in a trash can too, and also be providing a counter argument. Hopefully by the end of my presentation, I'll be able to convince you guys to stop littering, stop the usage of plastics in general, and just making the environment look nicer and safer for everybody too. So before I begin, I'll just be going over an enormous issue that is still being tackled on a global scale, and that issue is pollution. So some facts that we should first know is that Americans throw away 30 tons of trash almost every year, and out of all those 30 tons, only 25% of that is recycled, and the other 75% goes to landfills. And these landfills can cause many problems to both human beings and the environment by causing two types of pollutions, and those pollutions are water pollution and air pollution. So in an article by Energy General, the largest landfill we know is in the North Pacific Ocean, which is known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And initially it is twice the size as Texas, so that means that it is enormous, and it's just in the trash. Another thing we should know is that there's a lot of plastic in our oceans, and that causes a lot of pollution for our oceans. So most of the pollution in our ocean is because of plastics. And how it ends up in our oceans, well, there's two possible ways, and one of them is people either directly throw the trash into the ocean, which is how it ends up there, or people usually throw it in a stream or like a river or anything like that, which ends up in an ocean. So that is how that ends up there. So plastic pollution is a major issue because it poses a physical and a chemical threat to both human beings and marine animals. So one of these important things that should be known is that EPA, the article that I got this information off, said that 90% of the plastics in the ocean are microplastics, and microplastics are essentially very dangerous because they are often consumed by marine animals, which is what we eat sometimes. And when they pass by through a wastewater facility treatment center, they usually go undetected, and they usually just pass by like nothing because it's unable to filter out the little plastics that are infused in the water already, which makes it a danger for humans who drink water or any of that stuff, because we're consuming that plastic ourselves. So that's just a little something to consider. So that's primarily how the ocean and the water pollution comes to be, essentially. Now I'll be going over the other part of pollution, which is air pollution. So air pollution is often caused by landfills or a lot of trash that has gathered up in a certain place. And these landfills are also very dangerous because they're a thriving environment for organisms such as bacteria, vermin, and insects. In an article by EQ Labs, they stated that some flies that go to these patches of garbage, either landfills or the patches themselves, are the same flies that come around to your food, and they can usually have salmonella and contaminate your food. And if you contract salmonella, it is very dangerous because you will not only be very sick, but you can get a lot of diseases, I believe, or illnesses too that can potentially come with it. So this is how landfills are not really too good. This isn't really air pollution. This is more of just how you're polluting yourself in a way by making certain animals that shouldn't be striving that often out in the wild. In the same source, I read that the same landfills and trash cans, if they're around human like homes or human beings in general, they usually cause respiratory diseases because the waste contaminate the air with carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So that itself is very dangerous too. That is how air is polluted. And people often wonder, is there anything we can do to resolve this issue? And although there are not that many alternatives, there are still a certain few amounts that we can definitely still do all today by coming together and making a difference. So one of these things we can really do to completely not demolish the issue but minimize it to a greater extent is to just, I would say, completely stop the usage of plastics in general for anything. So an example would be, instead of going to a restaurant and dining out, you can dine in. And the reason for that is because when you dine out, you use a lot of plastic. So the plastic bag, the plastic container containing the food, plastic cup for your drink, plastic silverware, just too much plastic that shouldn't really be used. And if you go to a restaurant, you really wouldn't be using any at all, basically. So that's one issue. Another issue could be grocery shopping. When you go grocery shopping, instead of using plastic bags, you can replace the plastic bags with fabricated bags, which are reusable. So instead of using plastics, use reusable items. Another example could be water bottles. Instead of plastic water bottles, go ahead and use Hydro Flask or reusable items that will last you a very long time as well, and minimize the usage of plastic. Let's see, another issue could also be, well, one of the biggest issues that we can do to solve this is, of course, doing all the things I already said, but also communicating the issue around, letting it be known that it is honestly a very important issue and that it should be something that we should all be aware of and we should all be tackling together, because it's not only affecting the lives of everyone, but affecting the lives of marine animals and affecting just how our entire ecosystem is working out too. So people often argue that the materials are too expensive for us to use and that they cannot afford it, and if there are other alternatives to use. And although there are some that could be argued, one that is mainly argued is burning trash with the new technology that converts waste into energy. It could potentially be seen as a positive thing, but according to an article by National Geographic, I believe that Americans, here I have the fact right here, that US waste incinerators release equivalent amount of 12 million tons of carbon dioxide into the air, which is very risky and I believe speeds up the climate crisis that we're going on through right now a lot faster. So even if we were to do something like that, it would just bring us another potential issue that we shouldn't just have to deal with. We should just tackle them all together and just do something to resolve them for once. So all I can say for this is just to cooperate together, just stop using plastic and just continuing to see how it goes. So despite them being too expensive and people not being able to afford them, I believe it shouldn't be something to be argued with, and it should just be something that we should all just start with and cooperate with. And people should just find out a way to do it. I can't really find another way to say it. People should just find a way to just use it instead of complaining about it. So after going over a lot of possible ways that littering and pollution can affect us, and going over a certain amount of solutions, all I can say right now for this issue and this matter is just to stop using plastic bags, start focusing on our environment, because if we don't, we will be in a global crisis where basically our waters will be toxic, animals will be going extinct a lot faster than they already are, and they're going extinct pretty fast. And we should also consider our own species being extinct as well. This is potentially an issue that can cause us many human deaths and potentially the extinction of our own species as well. So we should just all communicate together, communicate it to a larger extent than it should already be done. Spread the word, stop using plastic, and just think about our environments, think about our planet Earth, and think about ourselves as well.